Welcome to Chew the Fat. In this series, I sit down with high-performance guests over their favorite dish and we talk about business, life, and what it takes to be at the top. This is all part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. You can help by following, leaving a review, and sharing it to all of your friends and family, because ultimately the more you do, the bigger the audience and the larger the impact. In this episode, I sit down with Simon Beard, who successfully exited his company at $600 million called Culture Kings. What I absolutely loved about Simon was his energy. As I was speaking to him, it was infectious. He was really, really passionate about both his business, but also business in general. But in today's episode, we get deep into his business lessons and the way he thinks about creating a business in 2024. I'm incredibly excited for you to hear this one, and I would love for some of your feedback. Simon Beard, the co-founder and CEO of Culture Kings. Welcome to Chew the Fat.
Thank you, Frank. Excited to be here.
So today you've asked me a little dish from Nobu. Shout out to Nobu. We have a crispy rice cracker, which was prepared at 4 a.m. this morning, with some tuna salmon and a little bit of sriracha mayo on top. Have a little bite, my friend.
Oh my God. I've been staring at it. I can't wait.
I've got big shoes to fill. Nobu is an epic place.
It's better.
No, don't.
It is.
Don't listen
Oh
to
my
Nobu.
God. So good. I wish I could make this.
So Simon, I've heard in a number of podcasts the headline of a 600 mil valuation, but what I know intimately is that feeling of that first tax office bill which says, hey, it's time to pony up. What did that first bill for capital gains tax cost you for your exit?
So we did the deal with half cash and half in shares, and we listed on the New York Stock Exchange. So yeah, we did, have that amazing moment of the 300 mil dropping into my first little Dolomite account. But yeah, we did have to, that capital gains taxes, as much as it, when it came around, it was a lot. It was like, more than 60 million or something. And I remember the moment when we had to pay it. We just kept delaying it to the last sort of day, and it was just like that thing of like this transfer. It's like, oh, surely but I always feel like so many people can go to so many lengths to try and avoid sort of tax and stuff, where it's like, for this amazing country that we live in and this amazing opportunity, I think it's like, I didn't dwell on it, and it felt, very much well-deserved for all the opportunity and stuff that we got given in this country, where you can just create something and run with it. And it's not, I think this is such a wonderful thing about Australia, some of us forget, is that it's not like it's corrupt or there's these gatekeepers or there's something. Like, I could start at the markets with nothing, get product market fit, import, create a shop, do it. I didn't need this connections. I didn't need this, and you could build it up to there. Like,
it's 100%. It's the land of opportunity in a lot of ways, isn't it? And it's safe, it's beautiful. So I love that attitude. So for everybody that's living under, it's been living under the rock over the years, tell me in a nutshell, what is Culture Kings, and I guess what was your mission as a business?
So our mission started, I'd started at the markets as a kid, never worked a job, and was just that hustler sort of salesman. But I first did this Schoolies merchandise, which is ironic, it's on right now, which was a basic hotel slipper with Gold Coast Schoolies written on it. And that was the first time I realized like that really hit. When I met my wife, we worked together on that, and we just hit this product market fit of like, oh my God, when a trend catches on, the network effects, when all the cool kids had it and everyone else wanted it, and it just snowballed what was possible. And I'd always been a bit of a streetwear fan myself, buying clothes for myself, had this disdain for surfwear, and we went hard on this opportunity of what I saw was streetwear, and just started at the markets next to my stall that was selling like consumer electronics. And then we just built it from there. And very early on, I sort of saw the opportunity of, why can't we win at this when Okay, online was obviously starting, but it was coming big. And I remember the success of Net-a-Porter online, which was one of those big online retailers which really broke. No one thought, no one's going to buy a $6,000 dress online, and they just did it and pioneered it, this global model. And I was like, what about if we had like the Culture Kings online was this global, you know, really big online retailer, and we had these signature stores. Like, you don't need one in every shopping center. You just need these flagship ones that really create the feeling, the state, the emotion, link it to it, and then scale it with online. And what we could always do with, I always thought what Foot Locker did with 1,000 stores, we could do it with 50 and win. And we had our mission very early. That was our mission, was to be that global leader in streetwear. Our purpose, which one of the first things I do when I'm investing in companies is help really get this clear, because I know when we got this clear, it just unlocks so much energy in our team, which created so many great results, which was create magic moments for our customers, our teammates, and ourselves. When we just thought at the end of the life, you're not going to remember all the stuff you brought, but you'll remember the moments. Our part was not hoping they show up, like, let's create them and create. And it was all about, how do we create more of this dopamine effect, you know? How do we create this more vibrant atmosphere of buying something? How do we make it a bit more of a chase, you know? Because people don't value what they don't fight for. This is the whole thing that Nike do so well, is to create this hype. It means so much more than buying something off a shelf. And when we got that purpose clear, this led to so many breakthroughs of like what we would do with in-store events and celebrity meet and greets, because that was a magic moment. I remember that feeling when I first saw 50 Cent, you know, in the thing. It was like he was this idol, and then he was there. It was like, and I remember it was such a magic moment for me. If we could just create these and bring them to store, and people could see the people that always seen on socials or TV, it would be such an amazing moment. And this led through all our business of getting that purpose really clear. And I cannot stress of younger businesses, of getting your purpose on words is so important, because it can be such a North Star when you come to decisions like, well, why are we doing this?
100%.
It just clarifies. And this, you know, from stuff that didn't make sense, you know, like I could tell you from Drake deal, or, you know, giving them 200 grand in a duffel bag and sort of stuff. But it's like, you can't economically put it in a spreadsheet and sort of, how's this going to pay itself off? But when you brought it back to the purpose of like the magic moment of someone just being associated, like, I've shopped at the same store as Drake.
Yes.
That gives that little bit of feeling and emotion. And this is how we partnered with events, you know, from music festivals like Ultra, Rolling Loud, etc., to how it worked into our sharpshooter basketball in store, to how we created, you know, gamification of our Holy Grail and claw machines to create more. That's a magic moment. To how we did not for sale, surprise and delight.
Yes.
All this tied back to, and I could so clearly explain it through our purpose that all the staff got it straight away. And yeah.
So cool. So 2 things I'd love to explore. First part is, the magic moment feels like a really important, and now I guess on reflection, a really obvious thing that you've done. What was your big magic moment that got you onto that?
I suppose it was that, you know, there's a lot of those frames that people would use online, you know, like the rocking chair analogy, when you're 80 and you're sitting on your, you know, what are you going to look back to?
Yeah.
And I would always think of that as like, you're not going to look back at all the sort of stuff, but it's those moments. And let's focus now on like, let's create them. And so when I would onboard all the staff, I would have this whole speech that I would go through talking about this. It would take me about an hour just to explain magic moments, right? But it was this way that I would really get their buy-in of like, okay, that's what we're doing. Because the magic moment too is not just, so we create them for our customers, our teammates, how we celebrate wins together, and ourselves. And magic moments for ourselves, I say some of the biggest ones is when we're scared, but we do it anyway. Courage. You know, when you speak up in that meeting and your voice cracks because you're not, but you still keep going and you get it, that's a magic moment. And when you would define these also in our environment of growth and learning and pushing and doing, that's where it became. And I know for me, those were the magic moments, is that I was so scared to do it, but when I signed the fucking lease, I put the money on the thing. I was on the Facebook ads manager and I went $1,000 a day, you know, on the ads. Where at the time it was like, you know, it was like I would get that gut check feeling.
Yes.
I would get that, but when you did that, that was magic. And that's what I really would try to feeling. And some of us that are entrepreneurs, we get this feeling off numbers and seeing dashboards and charts. But actually, the majority of staff don't get that.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people make this mistake, is thinking when they see everything up and right, they're green, they get excited because it's money for them, but staff have zero connection with that. But when you can tie it, especially this was really important in retail, so many people worked in retail because they just love talking to people and doing it. They don't get, you know, off the numbers and driving that sales, where once we did it, is like our job is they walk in like, oh, what's this story? Is that your job is to light them the fuck up.
Yeah.
Is you want them to leave like they got a cape on the back and they fucking fly out there. Like that is your job. And it's to create this magic moment, you know, that they have this true connection in a retail. And when you could get that clear to them, I just knew it made so much more than, and the dashboards all went up and to the right, but you have to do it indirectly. And that's what I think so much people that are so much around the numbers can try and force that on staff, especially if they're in that field. They're not doing, like, someone's not joining the retail, you know, and is working there because they're fucking numbers driven. They just love talking to people. And that's what you have to unlock and just try and measure it that way. That was
And when you reflect on that, what is the, like, of all the magic moments that you put together, you know, we talked about the Drake thing, what do you think the one that was the biggest unlock for you? Or the one that I can see the smile in your eye right now?
I think it was when that feeling when I first saw 50 Cent, who was like this idol to me, and seeing him in real life and just getting like this, ooh, like this feeling, you know, like you get it when you see a celebrity. And I was just like, that is such a cool feeling and you remember it forever. And then I was like, I'm just going to figure out a way how to create that for as many people as possible. I don't care if they don't buy anything, they don't think, like it's free, but I just know if you create that feeling in our store, like that's going to drive true brand. That's going to create it. And those were the deals that we worked on early, of like, you know, when artists were in town and working your way through the entourage and, you know, from bribing their entourage to paying them cash to paying the promoters to get them to come in, but then just trying to create the right organic space where they feel they could connect with their fans, and it wasn't this set up like stand here and thing where they could, because as well, that's when, and to see those, I remember when we first sort of did it and you would see the faces. I used to love like helping them get their photos or pre-framing them before they get to look, oh, Chris Brown, you know, and they're just seeing the look on their face. It was so exciting. And that's when I knew, and this was the other thing when it cracked it, is like everyone that got a photo with them, it would go straight to profile pic. And I was like, how much is that worth? Because they're like, you've just gone and got like 500 profile pics in one day, but they leave there for probably years. Like,
Probably still there today.
Yeah. So that's, I've still got my Drake one as a profile pic.
And on the flip side, in those moments of chaos, when you think about that, what was your big moment of going, oh, I've gone over the top?
It's funny, as much as look back on some of the deals, like ones I really feel that as much as I was valuing that future value, it was actually worth so much more. It was so much cheaper that I should have just done more and more of them, of building that brand and having more of that trust in that gut. And I suppose that's where it's hard, because you've really got to play the long game in it. You're not going to see the return that month or that thing, but when you stack it over time, what it was worth was phenomenal. So I don't sort of look back and think, did I pay or put, and trust me, those times I know when so many times when I've paid it or doing it, like I've had that look, or from Tani or things like, have we just, like, was this just stupid? But when I look back now, it was all a bargain, really.
So let's change gears. So Culture Kings is a big part of your context and your where you've been. I'd love to talk about the future. What does that look like for Simon? Where are you going, and where are you investing your time and energy?
Yeah, so I stepped away from the day-to-day at the start of this year. And I suppose it was like, as we, from a public company, it was a big thing of launching the Vegas store, which, was a ton of work, and it was a big dream and vision of ours. And when we got that in the Caesars, and it was so good, my wife was 9 months pregnant, worked like 3 months straight, was over there like crazy hours. We literally could fly. It was like the second last day she could fly to come back. And we pulled it off, and it was such a cool opening, and to have it all there, and the big after party at Omnia nightclub, and all the bottle serves, all the Culture Kings, and all that video on the screens. It was a true, like, wow, like we made it moment. But when we came back, and we're just about to have our 4th child and stuff, it was like, I really felt I'm an entrepreneur at my core. And this is the thing, is when you're an entrepreneur, I made this misassumption, is though when you give away control, you never, like, you're not an entrepreneur anymore, you're an employee. No matter how much I was like, but I'm the biggest individual shareholder, but I'm on the board, but as much as I try and justify it, I was like, yeah, but I didn't have that control. And it's just very different, from, we were a husband and wife team, owned 100%, never had less than, 10 mil in the bank. We were pretty conservative in, like, we were running zero debt, we could make our decisions and think super long term, to a public company, got to report every quarter, majority owned by private equity, and over 100 million plus US debt. Like, it's just it's totally different worlds.
Yes.
So I just felt, I'm better to step away. And, it was some of these things too, where I was, am I right? Am I wrong on the direction? And it was sort of a good split test to step away and see for myself of was I right or was I wrong? And I suppose for me, to really learn and get back to that entrepreneurial spirit, I wanted to invest in younger companies. I wanted to help them scale. It's like, I've got all this knowledge now. I felt I learned so much in just going through the deal and of e-commerce and ones, and how they want to do retail and omni-channel. And it's like, I've got the playbook, I want to help you. I want to help you and scale and grow. And that's my more purpose now, and to do it for other companies. And, I still believe too, like, I love that whole, in going through the deal of private equity, I was like, oh my God, this would be fun. Like, I really thought, like, buying other companies, working out ways to improve them, seeing how you can leverage and create it. I really thought, like, when I went through that, I was like, I can see myself in the future, in like 10 years or so, having this massive private equity firm and doing that. And so I thought, why not start the learning and the process? Because I want to, there's still a lot to learn and better. I know I can do it for myself, but can you do it for multiple? Can you influence in the right way? And that's my sort of learning part now to eventually do that.
So bring me into that conversation. You've got these young startups, these young people that you're, and when I say young, the young businesses, you're mentoring, having those discussions with them. What's the common traits that you're seeing, and what's the pieces of value that you're really bringing to them?
Common traits that I see is that they get distracted by shining light syndrome, right? It's always like, oh, we could be doing this or we could be doing this. There is so much opportunity where it's like, and I know for myself, I can obviously, I'm that entrepreneur, can get distracted by that as well. But from what I've learned is that really you've got to remember what you're saying no to and just concentrating that focus. And this is the thing. Sometimes it's doing boring stuff. Sometimes you don't need another meeting or another strategy. It's just, we just got to keep this strategy going and not get distracted and not go for the shining light and just really get that flywheel to compound. That is one of the biggest lessons I think I've taken, because it's especially, and this is where I think my wife was such a great balance of me. She was the process and the operations and that I'm like the ideas and really move fast as sales and marketing. I can get distracted by the next thing, but she would always be like, no, we're doing this, right? Like, and she was the big one of like, you know, 1 store per year.
Yes.
Like where we could have jumped, like it's working, it's this, they're spitting out this much EBITDA cash, like when it's like, no, we want to make sure we do it right and just do it and no debt and we just self-funded. And it was like, it was so good because we were just compounding the model and building that flywheel that it got to that point. And so that's where I feel for a lot of these startups and stuff, especially from my mentality now, I'm trying to reel back the entrepreneur in me and balance it out more with investor.
Yes.
So you entrepreneur, it's all emotion, right? Yeah. It's all, let's go, it's exciting. But investor is no emotion, is pure stepping back. And what I'm trying to do is balance that and just go, more of it is what are we saying no to and just realigning them that it's worth it and play the long game and stack that compound, that flywheel effects.
Saying no is truly like a muscle that you have to build.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the entrepreneurial spirit that we share, but it's the muscle that I've had to practice so much in the last 12 months because my starting position is trust and yes.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really, really interesting to have to balance that and keep working on it. And you often, there's a sense of guilt.
Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do and you can actually let fewer people down by doing it.
100%. And you would be I always say a really great thing is know if you're a trust earner or a trust giver. You're definitely a trust giver. You give trust straight away and you know, you're over optimistic on people. I'm sure you got the same thing, like pretty much every interview you do, you're like, they'll be able to do it. Like they can do it. Like you have this over belief in people. But I remember this was something that it is a superpower, but also can be a disadvantage. You have to be able to balance it. Because my wife's a trust earner. She gives no trust straight away, builds it up very slowly. But there's pros and cons on both sides, because us trust givers, when someone rips us off, we can go psycho, right? Because we're like, I would never do that to someone. How could someone? And you just sort of go to these fucking extremes where a trust earner, when someone rips it off, they can let it, it's like water off a duck's back. It's like, oh, I knew they'd do that, and they move on really quickly, but they build it up slowly. So sometimes they miss opportunities because they don't trust, but sometimes too, we can obviously get burnt because we give trust so easy. But it's that balance and knowing, I think it's truly born into you. It's like a nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah.
But it's for entrepreneurs. That's what enabled us to take the risk to even have a go and get stuff
quickly. Like you just said, you go quickly because you're like, I see it at face value, boom, let's go. You know, like, boom, let's go.
And I remember that my very first thing in the markets, you know, when I sent money to like this Alibaba, you know, and the first thing I was like, my parents were like, how do you know that they're gonna send you the stuff? And I'm like, I don't know, because they've advertised it. Surely they've got it. They will, right?
They said
it. Like it's for them. Their first thing is like, is this a scam? Are they going to rip it off? The first thing I'm looking at is the opportunity. It's like, well, I can buy it for $1. I can sell it for 10. You know, the hotel slipper. So yeah, that is that. It's you need to have that balance of both, and that's what Tani and I, where she was the trust earner, I was the trust giver, and we could together get a really good balance there.
And on that concept around, you're in that unique position. You've had, and it sounds like an amazing wife, and that could give you that balance, and it made perfect sense to be a co-founder and found Culture Kings together. There's many people listening today that they don't have that person in their life. It's same with me. I have brothers that are incredible. What's your recommendation to a new young startup? Do you look for a co-founder or do you go it alone?
I think where people, they get a lot of, sometimes founders, but they're very much the same. What if you don't have one already and you're doing it, you need to have an opposite skill set and an opposite, not too much crossover. Like for that, this was just, you know, where I won the lotto with Tani is like, I was always the ideas and the marketing was really good. And I could always like generate, and that was my sort of skill in the sales. But she was like this operation and process and really understood that side of the business. So that's where we were the perfect combo together. And how do you find that? I always say it's this ultimate personality test online. It's Principles U. Ray Dalio, the biggest hedge fund of all time, started it. You can do it for free. It's better than like the 10 grand Myers-Briggs ones. And I make every staff that I'm about to interview or something do it. And you can even compare against other people in their team. So you can already see some of the challenges but that could come up. But where always the best partnerships have worked is where there's actual, their strengths and weaknesses are opposite. And that's where that perfectly shows on that test with myself and my wife is like, I'm 98% creative, but she's 2% creative. But she's 98% detailed and reliable, and I'm 2% detailed and reliable. So we perfectly balance each other out.
And the overlay I'd love to make on that one is, I certainly get that question around the co-founding piece. My biggest watch out, the call out for me is having other founders is an incredible strength when you have the right founders. But that's the one time where I do start with a trust, the trust starting position. However, you want to take time before you get there because it truly is as complex as a marriage. It truly can be even more when you start to go years and years increase. So never take that decision lightly to bring in a true co-founder or co-founders into business that you don't know. I hear this often, which is like, oh, don't do business with your family. And it's like, well, the reality is, at least it's the devil I know. So at least I know intimately what it looks like when they're happy, sad, angry.
Yeah.
The other person, I only get to see a certain side of them.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part.
Exactly.
So I noticed that through the social game, you're doing a lot in the AI space in terms of teaching yourself and trying to learn and talk about ChatGPT and the new versions. What's that all about? And like, what are you driving towards?
I suppose for me, and this was a part when I sort of stepped away, I went way down the ChatGPT rabbit hole when it came out in November last year. And I was just like, I got that feeling in my gut when I remember when I was on Facebook ads in 2011, when it first came out. And I remember when Facebook ads came out, I was like, oh, I've got to learn this. This looks really exciting. And then I'm like, oh, I'm too busy running these retail stores. I need to find an agency or something to do it. And then I thought, you know what? No one knows how to do this yet. Like, it's just been coded by some developers. And I'm like, I'm sure whatever those developers, I could figure it out and do it. And I just clicked on every single column and hovered over, what is the information? What does this do? What does this do? And just really investigated and learnt it from the grassroots. But because I could really understand those fundamentals of it, that was a game changer. I've spent hundreds of millions on Facebook ads and socials. And as that growth over the time, I could still, like earlier this year, I would every day be logging into the ad account and running through a whole company of 100, explaining what content was working and why, and trying to give those knowledge out. Because if you're running an e-com business, there's no platform like it. So much of your revenue is directly proportionate to that. And in that first principles that came out in 2011, when I always thought the reason why I lent into it and did it is because I'm like, you've got a TV ad, the TV industry is so big, you have no idea where it's going to, who's watching it, who's actually, it's just complete black hole where this you can click, you can target the exact person. It's like, this has to just be, it has to take over. And so I know from getting that grassroots feel, and this is what I felt with AI. I felt there's no way the traditional way of doing this is going to work like if you're using this AI. But I was like, I can't get a consultant or an agency. I need to get my hands in the tools and play with it and figure out, you know, that real touch and feel at that grassroots level, because then I'll know how to make the best decision. And as much as it keeps developing, to stay close to it. And that's what I felt with this ChatGPT, is like, this could be this next thing, exactly like how Facebook ads was. I know that's how we built our, was, you know, we never had an agency. We did it always in-house.
The whole way through.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, it's still that knowledge of understanding, you know, the content, the product, the content, the feedback loop of how the ads are in the data, and then feeding that back around as tight as you can run that loop. Is that the AI is very similar, is it's resetting the first principles, exactly like what Facebook did to TV and everything, is that, you know, there's a new way to build up from. And I have been using it a lot and looking for ways of how to streamline a lot of processes and implement. And I just believe you can build like quite a big company now with very few employees. And that's what I sort of see as the opportunity.
Take me there for the listeners. You have the tools of 2020, 24. What would you do differently? How would you use them to bring it to start yourself a new business?
So definitely, if it was clothing sort of related, you know, I would never start like how I did at the markets or something. I would just do it all for online and really learning that the ads and the deployment. And there's so many cool technologies around print on demand, or when you're not taking this inventory risk, and how you can properly do it. That's how you could do it and build a huge business yourself. And I think though, understanding the core of like Facebook ads, understanding Shopify, a lot of people don't know this, but I was doing all the ads and the buying at Culture Kings up to 50 million turnover, right? So it was not like, it was, a lot of people think, oh, I need to get this agency when they're like 5 or 10. I'm like, what the hell? You can do it yourself. You could, and it's so much easier now. Like, you could probably still run the ad account on a $10 million, $20 million business on like 3 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, but the founder doing that, or the CEO, there's no other 3 hours that's going to be more valuable, because even if you're not doing it quite as good as someone else, you have so much more context knowledge that the other person won't have, that you will actually do such a better job, and it will drive the whole loop. And this is where, you know, especially a lot of people think of, and this is what I really encourage, because I've sort of seen people, say a bit older than me, you know, at a bit success, and they see new technology, but they don't dive under it. Like say even Excel, for example, but they don't even understand how to even chop a little bit of data or something themselves, and everything has to get relied on. And I've just seen when they've missed stuff or got bamboozled by people that can. And I was like, I want to keep that muscle strong. I want to keep that as much as I can grow. I just don't want to be, you know, just in the clouds and all this high level strategy, when that's the dinosaurs that get smoked. Because these people that can just connect it and do a whole new way. And that's what I think will keep happening more and more with technology, and with AI, and how you can leverage it and run a smaller team. And it's just because when you have a smaller team and you're making more that decision making, you just got way less parts to leak, to make mistakes, because it's so much more centralized.
And what about the AI pieces? So with what you've seen with ChatGPT and what you can do today, how would you implement that into your business of 2024 that you're starting?
You could, yeah, obviously there's all the low-hanging fruit stuff of like copy or generating the website. You know, you can build all that automated now with AI. But not only that, like you can use AI models. You can create your own AI influencers to drive content and product that are driving that.
Talk me through that. What do you mean?
So you can. So I suppose this is going to disrupt massively. But so in the fashion industry, there's this, it's a bit of a broken part where agencies sort of can hire these or can sign this talent, and then you've got to pay so much to use a model. And then there's usage rights. You know, if you put them on a billboard or something, you've got to pay like another thousands of dollars. And it's all this sort of stuff where now, and it's quite a slow process to shoot it, where you can just use the visual mock-ups that you would not be able to tell now. You can use an AI model, which we always have this argument in creative of who's the right model. Is it the right, are they muscular enough? Do they have the right amount of tattoos? You know, what's the sort of skin color? And we all sort of debate about it, where now we can fucking make the perfect one and then they're yours too. And then you can create other content and do it. That's what I think is going to be huge. And then you could create all these sort of influence and stuff accounts. You're already seeing this now, you know, these influence accounts, you know, with hundreds of thousands of dollars that are making all this money, and they're completely AI generated. That, I believe though, so that whole model is like, you basically have no studio, you generate all the images, you generate all the models, you generate all the content.
And then it's micro-segmentation. Because to your point around what's the right model,
Exactly.
the right model is different for every environment.
Exactly.
And so therefore then rather than hiring your 100,000 models, you got the right ones for the right place and the right targeted audiences.
I used to say this, one of the big things in rapport, like people who are like themselves or who they'd like to be. If you could exactly mirror that, you know, like the right Asian model for the right one, you know, and bridge that. But that is, the model, and this is a big thing in streetwear, people didn't realize of how important, because it's how the model looked and how they wore the product was actually more important. Really could create a trend or not, and could really kick it. It's crazy when you see that sometimes the conversion difference, when you've had a product and then you've just reshot it on a different model with the right pose, and it's just like, what the hell just happened? And it's just, because we're making decision off that emotion. And I think though that's just going to be even more AI. But it's like, the thing is like, you know, to go to Dubai and do a photo shoot, you could do the whole thing generated soon enough that you will not be able to tell a difference. And yeah, it's going to be, that's where I sort of think is that the content generation at such scale and such the long tail micro segmentation is going to be huge. And you could just, run that with like super lean team. And it's just, the thing is to do this in real life, especially the cost of travel and everything now and inflation, it is so expensive. It is so expensive when you're like, fly everyone there. A huge opportunity.
And in your world, in your mind, is this a winners take all environment as we scale up with AI and people using the tools? Or is this the great, what's the right word? Essentially the ability that a lot of smaller people will
levels
do,
the playing field.
levels the playing field. What do you see?
I see it more as it levels the playing field. I always used to think of this is that what's going to beat Nike? And I'm like, I don't think it's going to be another Nike that beats Nike. It's going to be the death by 10,000 cuts over the long term, in that there's so much of these little brands that will be able to, with such a little team, be able to just micro niche and target someone better with more affiliation. Or the next LeBron James doesn't do Nike, just creates their own shoe and can create their own TikTok shop and thing. and wear a new pair of shoes every game, release a new colorway for each shoe, and it's on the Top Shop, and it's 2 buttons to buy it, and it's like you cut out everyone else. Like that will make so much more sense to me. Is that's what I sort of feel, is that the playing field gets actually leveled and gets even more cut down by those micro niches and those dinosaur companies. Because the thing is, when you get big, just the amount of bureaucracy and those layers that can just slow it down enough that in this world, and it is even a lot of business owners on here will be wondering, like, how do I do these right AI conversations at work? Because it's almost creates people to get their back up straight away. Soon as it's like, are you trying to get, they naturally have this fear. Are you trying to cut me out? Are you trying to do, and that's where it's this awkward stage right now where I'm always trying to be like, look, it's increasing productivity. We can do so much more. We can create so much more value. And if we're not, and other people do it, they will eat our lunch. It's like, the thing is, like, I used to call this out crazy like 10 years ago of Maya and David Jones. Right? I used to take my staff there and go, this is the definition of what to do. Look at them. Dinosaurs, you could throw a bowling ball, you can't hit one stuff. They try and sell everything. They try to sell to everyone. They sell to no one. It's just random shit, hoping someone will walk in and fucking buy it. Where I'm like, what we do is we put on a show, a theater, emotion. We connect a fucking true feeling. That's what they're buying. And I always said they will never last. Like, trust me, these guys are a ticking time bomb. And it was so crazy, like David Jones last year, and it was going through the thing that sold for 100 million, like the whole thing. And I remember I saw the thing and I was trying to tell Tony, I was like, do you reckon we could buy this, turn this around? But it was like crazy. I was like, surely you could just sell all that Melbourne property and fucking hell. I was like, anyway, but it's crazy to think like that iconic retailer over all that. And I was like, I called this, 10 years ago when I was just had this tiny little store and a thing, is that on our valuation, like, we sold 6 times. What, David, like, how does that make any sense?
That's so cool.
But that's the thing, is that's what happens to dinosaurs when you don't innovate, when you just rest on your laurels. And if you read all those business books, the stories, the Blockbuster, the Canon digital, the Kodak digital cameras and all that, you just have to keep reinventing. You have to keep that change. You have to always be doing the next thing. And the second that you take that foot off that gas, that entropy sits in. It's like, it's only a matter of time. And it can be slow death, like we see now radio and traditional media, but it's still fucking dying, right? There's no doubt about it. But it's just on this, and it's from these legacy deals that they've sort of held on. But it's just, no matter which way you look at it, it's like why Tesla is worth more than every other car company combined.
Is now the right time to tell you that David Jones is actually my biggest sponsor of this podcast?
Oh, shit. They're not smart enough to do that.
Simon, as we start to wrap up, what haven't I asked you? What's the thing that's getting you really excited that we haven't talked about?
I suppose my thing is, what I get really excited about is why I created, started my own sort of personal brand and stuff this year. I saw the sort of changing tide of it, and I thought about doing it years ago, and I was always sort of too scared. I'm like, well, I'm going to make Culture Kings not as cool, because it was sort of always this way cooler brand than me, right? It was this, I didn't want to, stuff it up sort of thing. But what I sort of see is how this changing world, and this is because of AI and stuff, is the power of the personal brand. It's not about this width of, you don't need all these followers, but just having the right ones, the quality. And that's when I started my personal brand, not to be well known, but be known well by the right people. And it is just so powerful. And I really got onto this from Alex Hormozi, which is sort of like super viral and
legend,
the king right now. And I saw it because I was like, this guy is so smart with his acquisitions.com, because now I've watched him for a number of times. I know how he thinks. I know how he operates. It's like, I know that guy's going to win. You know, anything. And then it's like he has the ultimate deal flow of all these businesses to buy. But if he just went on his story right now and goes, I'm starting my first fund, apply to invest, I'd hit the swipe up and put 10 million straight away because I just know he's going to win in his own private. So he could raise hundreds of millions of dollars, but then he has hundreds or billions of dollars of deal flow on the other side. He has this ultimate talent acquisition pool to bring in the right talent to do it. He just has this ultimate point of leverage. And I was like, you know what? The next big private equity firms, the big hedge funds even potentially after that will be actually from these personal brands. And I think it's just such an advantage to be in what now is a faceless company that hides in the shadows, that you don't know anything. It's so secretive. And it feels very untrustworthy, you know, from those first little reach outs of the junior admins and something where it's like, and that's why I wanted to start my personal brand, because like when I learn enough and in a few years when I'm fucking ready, like I would have this connection of people that have followed me. I've given them heaps of value and they understand how I think and work and operate. And then on the other side, people that want to invest, that are looking for alternative private equity is like, oh, that guy's going to win, you know, because they've followed you for years and understand how you work and operate. And that's what I sort of thought is what a great to invest in this now. And then that's my sort of thing. And I believe too that the personal brand and just what I've seen too is, even for myself, what was crazy is already now, I don't know, not many 30-something thousand followers, but already my engagement and especially like story views and stuff were even more than Culture Kings with 1.6 million.
Wow.
And it's like, and even the crazy stuff of, you know, from shouting out just stuff that I was doing, boat charters or something, getting $500,000 worth of charters or selling all this, you know, and just because it became from that figure of influence, you know, I wasn't doing it. I was just doing it because it's stuff that I do and I love. And I'm not trying to, you know, I don't want to monetize it or anything.
You're not selling toothpaste anytime soon.
But it is crazy, I think, that learning of like the power of positioning and influence. And just what I've learned is, I suppose, especially us in the world, we've always got caught up on these big numbers, but it's so many. Like I've paid ones with 5 million that have done a swipe up and sold fucking zero. And I'm like, how can this make sense? But it's because it's the thing is what is influencer is when they say jump, they jump. And this is where a lot of influencers stuff up, right? Is because they advertise conflicting things and lose all their brand equity. Imagine if LeBron James went, oh, this week buy a Jordan, the next week buy New Balance, the next week buy Adidas. You would just never, it means nothing. And that's just where some of these early influencers taking the quick cash can do that, where I sort of feel as this landscape more and the people that really have that integrity and build on it properly. And that's what I sort of see. And that's sort of my exciting term. And I just love to do deals and help invest in exciting growing companies and looking for ways that I've seen stuff work and how I can implement now and share those learnings and love to get those founders, because I suppose this is the thing with a lot of founders and entrepreneurs, it is a pretty lonely journey. You don't really have people that you can really talk to, and because you can't share your stresses and stuff with, you can never let the staff see it. You can never let anyone see it. You've really got to hold on to it. But if you have that right, I'd love to give that to, I know where I've had those moments and it was a breakthrough for me, and I never would have got to where I was without having that guidance and mentoring. And yeah, you just don't know what you don't know. And to have someone a bit further down the road that can, you know, save them from so many of those arrows in the back can just be game changing. And to get them to an exit point, like it is just that sign of relief, because so many entrepreneurs, like employees, do not understand that pressure as an entrepreneur that just never releases. It never goes away. I thought, oh no, it'll go away at 20 million. It'll go away at 50 million. Trust me, you turn over hundreds of millions of dollars. That was even more fucking pressure, because it was more like, oh my God, the wage bill's $500,000 a week. You know, I have 1,000 people's fucking families that rely on me to make the right fucking decision. And only when you got to that exit point and you could sort of create that, I remember that feeling. I never slept better.
Yes.
I wish I was wearing a Whoop then. I would have seen the sleep score go from friggin' 20% to 90. But yeah, that was, and I love to create those moments for founders and entrepreneurs because I love sharing the risk in everything they've taken to do it, like, and to be able to reach that true magic moment. And then that's part of the thing is you help give back and create more. It's this exactly what you're doing. It's the thing is when you have this sort of success, it's like anything. The first thing you want to do is share it with other people because you're like, oh my
100%.
God, I did this and it worked. Like you want to show it. Yeah, so that's the journey.
I love it. And my final question to you, Simon, is as you think about this journey you've been on, what's the thing you're most proud of?
I think what I'm most proud of is doing it with my wife, because I think like this is the most magical thing of like when we started the Schoolie Slippers, you know, she helped and we killed it. We made all this money, and then I was like, oh, I've got to pay her, and I said, how much do I owe you? She goes, nothing. I just did it because I love it, and I was like, oh my God, and we just kept working. And I said, I'd like, oh, you know, I'll pay you a salary. And after 2 weeks, I just said, I don't have any money. Let's just share money. And we shared money like from 6 weeks into our relationship. And we were like, you know, and we worked 100-hour weeks back to back. We did 5 years without a day off sort of thing, just to the balls to the wall. And we went all through those grinds and the ups and downs. And we always pulled each other through, and then to be able to celebrate it now together, you know, to have these experiences or whatever we're doing, or, you know, I'm getting to share it with her is such this magical thing because, like, we did it together. We grinded it together, and now we get to the ball together. So it's like, it is that's what I'm most proudest of, yeah. And then obviously creating the 4 kids with her and seeing the magic that happens of just the interaction of them and us. That's so cool. I love it.
So cool. I'm jacked up. Simon, I really enjoyed this conversation. I think the things that I reflect on, number one is you built an incredible business, but I can tell by your enthusiasm, your excitement, you're only getting started. You're only getting started, and it's so cool. I think it's so awesome that we've got to have this conversation so that I can kind of follow along this journey. The takeaways for me is around that learning for the founders to go either find someone that you can work with, find those right people in your circle, and then just trying shit out. Getting stuck in the detail. I love that because I have seen so many people in my, and it doesn't necessarily have to be dinosaurs, but people who are like delegate, and you ask them, it's a non-technical CEO, and you go, hey, what tech stack do you use? And they go, oh, ask the CTO, and you're like, dangerous. You're in a tech company, you don't know it. Yeah. And I just love that you're detail orientated, but then know what detail to get stuck into. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So thank you so much. This is awesome, and I know everybody's gonna love it.